today's story comes from the fourth Sunday in Easter. And in addition to our picture here that tells us about the story, I brought some other things that might look familiar as things that we have here in our Godly Playroom. So in today's story, we remember how the disciples went north to Galilee, just like Jesus had told them to. It was a long journey, about 100 miles. 100 miles is a long way to go when you're walking. Many of the disciples were fishermen, so they went to the Sea of Galilee to rest and fish. It was something that they were very familiar with, that they had been doing since they were boys. Suddenly, Peter stood up and he said, "I'm going fishing." The rest decided to go with him, so they went down to the boat and they pushed the boat out into the lake, and the sails filled with wind. They fished all night, but they didn't catch anything. Still, they were happy being out there on the lake, hearing the sounds of the water and the smells of water and fish. Felt like home to them. In the morning, the sky turned pink and then blue. They could make out the shore, and someone was standing on the shore by a fire. They could see the smoke from the fire and the red glow from the logs and the charcoal that was burning. The person on the shore called to them, "Have you caught anything?" All they could say was, "No." The man on the shore said to them, "Throw your nets on the other side of the boat." Well, they might as well give it a try. They hadn't caught anything so far, so they pulled in their empty nets and they threw them on the other side of the boat. All of a sudden, they could feel the fish swimming right into the nets. John, one of the other disciples, was not paying attention to the fish. He leaned forward out of the boat and he watched the man on the shore. He said to Peter, "It is the Lord. It is Jesus." Peter stood up. He jumped. He jumped out of the boat. He swam. He felt the stones under his feet and he waded ashore. The others turned the boat toward the shore. The nets were so full of fish they could not pull them in, so they just dragged them behind the boat. As they walked toward the shore and the fire, the stranger called out, "Bring some fish." So they did. When they gathered around the fire, they knew that the stranger was no stranger. John was right. It was Jesus. But they were afraid to say anything. "Have some breakfast," said Jesus. There was fish cooking on the fire. He gave them fish and bread to eat. They talked as they ate. The fish and the bread tasted so good to them. Then Jesus asked Peter, "Do you love me?" Peter said, "Yes, of course." And Jesus told him, "Feed my lambs." Jesus asked Peter again, "Do you love me?" "Yes," Peter answered. "Tend my sheep," Jesus told him. And Jesus asked him a third time, "Do you love me?" Peter said, "You already know I do." "Feed my sheep," Jesus told Peter. And that's why I brought the sheep here, to remind us about Jesus telling Peter, "Feed my sheep." So I think there are a lot of things to wonder about this story. The first thing to wonder is, what did Jesus mean by telling Peter and the other disciples, "Feed my sheep"? I think that's a good thing for us to wonder, and we can think about that during the week. And I bet if we think really hard, we can think of a lot of stories that Jesus told us while he was alive that explain to us exactly what he meant by "feed my sheep." Hi, Godly Play friends. I hope you're enjoying the stories that Miss Helen and I have been telling you about getting to know Jesus in a new way. Today's story makes me think of a few things. First of all, it makes me think about breakfast. Remember Jesus and the disciples when they came in from the sea with their big catch of fish? They had breakfast on the shore. Well, I want to invite you to have breakfast at my house today. Now, should we have the breakfast like Jesus and the disciples had? Bread and fish? Remember, I told you a few weeks ago that I used to eat goldfish for breakfast, but I try not to do that so much anymore. And I've got something else in mind for today for breakfast at my house. And we're gonna make it together. So one of my favorite breakfasts is buttermilk pancakes. And you know, there's something about when you're not feeling quite right or you're going through tough times, somehow there's certain things that you like to eat that you just know will make you feel better. It might be your favorite meal or something your mother used to make you or your dad or your grandma. For me, over the last couple of weeks, I just really had a taste for buttermilk pancakes. I don't know why, but I just thought that making and eating buttermilk pancakes would make me feel better. And I've made them a couple times and it works. So this morning we're gonna make buttermilk pancakes. And this is one of my favorite recipes right out of the box. It's complete pancake mix. All you have to do is add water. Really easy. Now I'm gonna make the recipe for 12 to 14 pancakes because I wanna share some. The smaller recipe is 6 to 7. I can eat about 4 by myself, but I wanna share some of the pancakes I make today. So I need 2 cups of mix and 1 1/3 cups of water. So I already measured out 1 of the cups of mix. I'm gonna pour that in the bowl. And I lost my, the spoon's in the box. So I'm gonna measure out another cup. And I think for buttermilk pancakes, you don't have to be too exact about measuring out the pancake flour. For some recipes, I think you should follow the directions pretty closely. But for this one, I think you can be like approximate. So there's another cup of pancake mix. So we'll pour that in the bowl. And then it said you need 1 1/3 cup water. So I'm gonna bring this over to my sink. And again, I usually go a little over what they recommend. There's 1 cup because I like my pancakes to be maybe a little thinner than some people. So now I've got my pancake flour and my water, and the thing that I think works the best is you take this whisk and you whisk them together. Kind of slowly at first, because otherwise it'll all slosh out of the bowl and you'll have a big mess all over the counter. Okay, while I'm doing that, I'm going to turn the burner on. And I don't want it to be too high because they'll cook too fast and they'll burn. I don't know, I think I want just a little bit more water in there. Just a little. Seems a little thick to me. Okay, so I'm gonna let the pan heat up a little bit. The pan I'm gonna cook the pancakes on is, I call a griddle. I used to have a big griddle where I could make a lot of pancakes at one time. And it was like a separate unit. You didn't cook it on the stove. It had its own heating unit built in. But I don't need to make that many at one time anymore. This griddle that fits on the stove will cook 4 pancakes at one time. And I think that works out pretty good. I like to use the 1/4 measuring cup to pour the batter onto the griddle. So I scoop some batter into the measuring cup, and then I pour it onto the griddle. So let's get 4 of them. Let's get 4 of them going at one time. There we go. Usually takes a little longer for the first batch to start cooking because the griddle isn't fully warmed up. So I'm going to get a few other things out while we're waiting for that. Do you know how to tell when the pancakes are ready to be turned? When they get a lot of bubbles on the top, that means they're ready to be turned. Now these are starting to get some bubbles, but you have to be very careful because if you try to turn them too soon, the wet batter kind of gets all over the place and makes a big mess. You can kind of peek underneath and see how they're doing. I'm going to leave them just a little bit longer and wait for a few more bubbles to come up before I turn them. Let's see, let's try this one. Whoa, that looks pretty good. That has a nice golden brown color. That's the trick to pancakes, nice and golden brown. Let's leave these other two just a couple seconds longer. Ooh, love the color of that one. Okay, now they have to cook on the other side. And I'll get a plate out so we can move them to the plate when they're done. Let's let them go just a few minutes longer. While we're waiting for them to cook, I wonder what your favorite breakfast is. You like to eat cereal and milk? You like to eat oatmeal, pancakes, waffles, fruit? What other kinds of things are good for breakfast? My cameraman, Mr. Johnny here, is keep trying to cue me, but I'm not getting it. What's your favorite breakfast, Johnny? Bagels. Yeah, bagels. How about eggs? Eggs and bacon. I'm surprised Johnny didn't say eggs and bacon because he makes eggs almost every day for breakfast. Okay, there's the first batch. Let's put that over here, and then I'm going to start another batch. I probably won't make you watch while I cook the whole bowl full of batter. We'll get another batch going here. I might want to turn the heat down a little because I'm afraid this batch is going to cook a little faster than the first. There we go. There's another 4 ready to go. I think that this is pretty accurate. The box told me I was going to make 12 to 14 pancakes. I've made 4. Another 4 makes 8, which I'm sure you all knew because you're all very smart. And then if I make another 4, that's 8 plus 4. That would be 12. Now it looks like I have enough batter in the bowl for at least 4 more, maybe even 6 more, which would give us 14. These are cooking pretty fast. Ooh, yeah. I might have to turn the heat down even a little bit more because those are coming out a little bit dark brown. We like golden brown, not dark brown on our pancakes. At least I do. Okay, we'll let those cook for a few minutes and then we'll put the last batch on. One of the things that I miss about being together in Godly Play is that when Miss Helen and I ask questions, especially wondering questions, we don't have you sitting in the room giving us all the smart, wondering answers that you guys always come up with. So you might have to find another way of telling me what your favorite breakfast is. I have maybe one more wondering question too for you once we sit down to eat. I don't know. Batch number 1 came out better than batch number 2, but I think they'll still taste okay. All right, so we'll start batch number 3, and then we'll be just about ready to eat. I think I might have enough pancake batter for 2 more after these. Okay, that was 4, 4, and 4. That's 12. That's addition and multiplication for you guys. All right, some of them are starting to bubble already. Could they possibly be cooking that fast? Oh, that one's pretty golden brown already. The color of those two pretty well. Let's see how these two are doing. Maybe a little light. Let's let that one go for a few more seconds. The tricky thing about pancakes is that not only do you want to get both sides cooked, but you need to get the middle cooked too. This raw in the middle would not taste good. Let's let those go for a couple seconds. What are you guys going to do after breakfast today? Looks like a pretty nice day out today. I went outside just for a minute to get something, and it was warmer than I thought it was going to be. And it's kind of sunny right now at least, so might be a good day for a walk. All right, let's see. These are ready to come out. Flipped them over and they look pretty good on the other side, so we'll add these to the plate. Yeah, looking pretty good. Okay, let's add the last 2. Now this time I'm going to get rid of my whisk, and I'm going to use my spatula. Kind of scrape the rest out of the bottom of the bowl and see how many more I can get. Why don't we just try to make one really big one and see how that comes out. You ever make your pancakes in shapes? Like what? Or letters? That's a good idea too. Thanks, Mr. Johnny. Sometimes they have molds that you can pour the batter into the mold, let it sit a little, then pull the mold up, and your pancake has a certain shape to it. That's kind of fun. You could, if you had a letter shape, you could make pancakes that spell out your name. Oh, okay, big one. Whoa, that turned out pretty good. Okay, last pancake, then we're gonna eat. I'm gonna get some silverware out of the drawer. We need some silverware to eat. I already kind of have the table set. We're not gonna eat at the table today. We're gonna eat at the counter, which I like to do. Oops, sorry, Mr. Johnny. Let's see how the, oh yeah. Oh, our big pancake turned out pretty good. All right, let's turn the stove off so I don't forget that. Now, here's our plate of pancakes. I better get a fork for that too. And this is what I like with pancakes. Definitely butter. Gotta put butter on top of the pancakes, and I better do it soon while they're warm so the butter melts right into the pancakes. Maple syrup, that's pretty good. That's pretty traditional. I kind of like, and I'm gonna try this today, I kind of like either blueberries or strawberries on top of my pancakes. And I like fruit flavored syrup too. This is the blueberry syrup. I also like something called boysenberry syrup. A boysenberry is a kind of berry, but I didn't see that in the store, and I don't really know how to make my own. So I'm going with blueberry today. So let me tell you, before we start eating, let me tell you about the other guests that I invited to have breakfast with us today. And this is the other part of the story that I've really been thinking about a lot lately. So when the disciples got back to the shore and were having breakfast with Jesus, remember in the story that Jesus and Peter were talking, and Jesus told Peter several times, "Feed my sheep." So I invited some friends here to have breakfast with us today, some sheep. Can you see them? Not real sheep, pretend sheep, stuffed animal sheep, but they remind me of sheep anyway. So we wondered a little bit earlier about what does that mean, feed my sheep? So in Jesus' time, the job of shepherd was a pretty popular job. And maybe Mr. Joe can help us learn a little bit about the history of what was going on in Jesus' time and why shepherd was a popular job. But I think a lot of people had sheep, had flocks of sheep, and they used those sheep to help them make a living. And somebody had to take care of the sheep, and that was the shepherd. Well, in our day, we still have farmers who have sheep farms, and they take care of sheep. But the sheep are kind of, this is a big word, an analogy for people who need to be taken care of. And so sheep are kind of a needy animal. They need help finding food, and they need help staying together, and they need help moving from one pasture to another, and that's why they need a shepherd to care for them. Okay, so I think we have people in our time that need help or need to be taken care of too. In fact, all of us need to be taken care of at some time. Think about when you're sick, or when you're hungry, or when you just feel sad, or you might be lost, or anything that can happen, and you really need to be taken care of. And so in those times, you're kind of like a sheep. Then there's lots of people in our world who are like the shepherd, who take care of people. Think about doctors and nurses and firemen and social workers and parents and lots of other kind of people who take care of each other. And it's really important, especially now when really kind of we're all having some hard times, that we take care of each other and we take care of the sheep. And so I think that's what Jesus meant by feed my sheep. Take care of the people around you who need to be being taken care of sometimes. So this week I really want to think about ways that I can feed Jesus' sheep. And I want to think of those people as my sheep too, not just Jesus' sheep, people that I should be taking care of. And I'm going to write down some of those ways, and I want you to think of ways that you can feed the sheep too. And hopefully you'll write them down, or your mom and dad can help you write them down. And then we can share all those different ideas for feeding the sheep. it's a really important thing to do in our world. So, thanks for coming over to my house for breakfast this morning. I'm sorry you can't eat the pancakes with me, and I'm not going to make you watch me and Mr. Johnny eat the pancakes, but we're really going to enjoy them. And while we eat our pancakes, we're gonna think about the story and how important it is to feed the sheep. Hope everybody has a great week, and Miss Helen and I will be talking to you very soon. Bye-bye.